So my name is John Richardson, and I'm the CEO of Ethelo. I'm joined today by the Disability Without Poverty's National Director, Rabbi Akado. Today, you're going to be joining us for an informal dialogue to talk about and plan the steps we can take together to make sure politicians take action to create a Canadian disability benefit. I want to acknowledge that I am gratefully speaking to you from the unceded territories of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish First Nations here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I also want to let you all know that I and Ethelo are still learning the culture and language of the disability community. I'm still coming to understand all the different aspects of meeting online accessibility needs. So I'd like to thank all the attendees in advance for your forgiveness and understanding if there are some bumps along the way, which there probably will be. Now, I'm going to be going over our accessibility components and agenda for today. Our meeting features simultaneous English and French translation, LSQ and ASL interpretation, and both English and French captioning. Please take a moment to adjust your settings. You want to take a minute to choose your language at the bottom. You can see how to do it here by selecting the interpretation option on the Zoom menu. And once you select that, you will not need to change language settings again during the presentation. You'll be able to hear the translation. You must select the language though, even if you want to hear the presentation in English. So everyone, take a moment to choose your language. If you're using a mobile device, such as a phone or a tablet, you can find the language interpretation options under the More button. For those that require ASL or LSQ interpretation, we'll be spotlighting those components through the presentation. We recommend using Zoom's speaker view to view the interpreters and current presenters. If you're using shortcuts, you can press Alt F1 on your computer to switch between these views. If you're using a Mac, you can do this by pressing Control or Command Shift W. There's a lot to understand here, but I hope it's coming through clearly. Now, for captioning, to enable captions, select the Captions option on the Zoom menu. If you would like to adjust the size and placement of these captions, you will need to go into your Zoom accessibility settings. If you would prefer to view the captions in a separate window, we post those links in the chat. We can support you through this presentation. If you need, just leave a comment in the chat box and we'll try to get to you. Okay, so Ahmed and Steph are watching that very carefully. Last little bit, to access additional settings, such as the captions, size, on-screen notifications, etc., go to your account settings and select the drop-down arrow next to the mute button and select audio settings. Enable and adjust these settings as required. If you're using a screen reader, it's recommended that on-screen notifications for chat messages be turned off during this meeting. Okay, so that is a lot. I hope it was able to take that all in. Now, I'd like to introduce Rabbi Akado, who is the National Director of the Disability Without Poverty campaign, and she will say a few words. Rabia?
Thank you very much, John. Good evening, everyone. My name is Rabia Khudr. I am speaking to you from Mississauga, Ontario, the traditional territories, most recently of the Mississaugas of the New Credit, and I'm eternally grateful for having lived on this land and enjoyed its benefits. And I recognize all First Peoples are Indigenous, Métis, and First Nations sisters and brothers who have preserved this land that we all occupy and enjoy today. I speak to you as the National Director of Disability Without Poverty, a movement. Thank you for taking part in this movement by way of participating through the Ethelo platform and giving your input, if you already have, through its survey questions online. If you haven't, I believe it's still available. Thank you for joining us from coast to coast to coast. It's really heartwarming to be able to engage in a discussion amongst all Canadians with lived experience and without, who care about people with disabilities or are people with disabilities and want to make sure that they have their say in how policy is formed. So Disability Without Poverty wanted to make sure that we reach out to people in many different ways, that we find ways to talk to people, to listen to people, to communicate with people, to discover what they think about the issue of disability poverty, and to raise awareness on disability poverty. We came together with Ethelo because they have a tremendous platform. They use e-democracy and technology tools to have conversations, get the pulse of what people are thinking, and pull it together and have a discussion like today. Ethelo wanted to raise awareness on disability poverty, wanted to hear from the public what Canadians are thinking, what people in Canada are thinking about disability poverty and the potential of a Canada disability benefit, and want to engage people in the process. We wanted to raise awareness, like we said as well, and we wanted to ensure that we are consulting people. So we have been consulting people through Ethelo, we have been consulting people through other means, and we want to make sure that we bring forward a benefit rooted in our principles, which include making sure that people with disabilities are involved in the design, negotiation, and implementation of the disability benefit. We want to make sure that people with disabilities get more money so that they can improve their living situation. People with disabilities don't deserve to live in poverty, ever. Nobody deserves to live in poverty. We are building a movement to say living in poverty is not an option for people with disabilities anymore. It cannot be forced upon us anymore. That we need to work with government, with society, with everyone involved, regardless of their politics, regardless of the parties, to bring forward a benefit that truly benefits every person with a disability living in poverty today. So that's our big goal. And we're doing this gathering for the first time with Ethelo. So we're learning through the process, all of us. I see some familiar names and many not. I am so glad that you have joined us. If you're not signed up already with Disability Without Poverty and not following our social media, please do so. Stay connected, keep involved, let us know how you want to be involved, and we will be sure to support you in figuring out how to best contribute to shaping a Canada disability benefit. Back to you, John.
Great. Thank you so much.
Can you guys help me sign up after the meeting, please?
Yeah. So in a few moments, we're going to break out into small rooms to talk together about actions that we can take to compel the government to take action. Now, one of the strategies that we are using is this online consultation process, seeking input from Canadians about what are some of the challenges and desires for the disability without poverty. And I'm going to share some of the early results from that consultation process. This is going to be one of the tools that we can use in our advocacy, is sharing this report with others and talking about what it means and why a disability benefit is important. So I'm just going to take a few minutes and share the preliminary results from the process, and also invite you to bring other people to participate, because it's going to be open for at least one more week. So I'll just get Liz to help us walk through. This is the title page of the report. So this process began in September, and it says it's closing in November 7th, but we're going to keep it open for a little bit more. It's about educating the public and also about learning, where does the public land on some of these issues and how much do they know? Next slide, please. We had a lot of people come to participate so far. More than 16,000 unique people have come to the platform and read at least some of the materials. Not everyone has finished it, but about almost 1,000 people have participated, and about more than 600 have finished most of the thing, and many comments as well. Next slide. We've asked people, how do they self-identify? And we found that most of the participants so far identify as a person with a disability. So we are getting a lot of participation from the disabled community, and we want more, right? We want to get some engagement from the disabled community. So if you know people that haven't participated yet, bring them along. Next slide. We asked people who are disabled what their disability is. And, you know, this is there's a lot of small print here, and we'll circulate the copy of the report when it's done. But you can see that mobility is the most common disability, followed by
IFCP and mobility.
Yeah, followed by chronic pain, mental health, another more pain related. There's a lot of different disabilities. It's a very broad community. Next slide. We did a quiz on the platform to test people's knowledge. Next slide. And we asked people, how many people in Canada do you think have a disability? And most people were pretty accurate here. 1 in 5, or 20% of Canadians, have a disability. That's a huge number. Next slide. And how many Canadians with disability experience poverty? The correct answer is 23%, but it's interesting that most people thought it was even higher than that. So it's no surprise to people to learn that people with disabilities live in poverty. It seems like most people expect it. That's a terrible situation. Next slide. And now this was kind of a knowledge test. We asked people, are people that receive disability income support allowed any earnings outside their income support? The correct answer is yes, and most people got that right. Okay, next slide. Oh, and also we asked, does Canada currently have a federal disability income support program? And the correct answer was no. And so most people got that right as well. A big question, and this was a lot of the process, was what are some of the principles that should rest underneath a Canada disability benefit. And so this is a summary of that. The most important principle that almost everybody supported was that people should live and have an income above the poverty line. There's going to be very, very little argument from anybody about this one. The next important principle was inclusion, that it should be a very inclusive type of benefit, not about keeping people out, but about keeping people in. It should cover extra costs that come with having a disability. You know, there's so many small costs that are so financially crippling. Those should be covered. It should be equitable and fair. It should be indexed to the cost of living. Inflation is going up. The disability benefit should follow that. It should be based on individuals' income. And now we're seeing things become less important as we go along. But there should be an earning exemption. You should be able to earn some money. You should be automatically eligible. There should be no clawback. Government shouldn't be pulling back your wages. And it should be simple and consistent rules for being eligible. Right. Oh, so I'm being reminded that I'm talking too much, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. Next slide. Okay, these are the concerns that people raised. Please go ahead, next slide. The most important concern was the length of time it would take to get a benefit going. So that's a big concern for people. Also, they're concerned about the amount of income that would be allowed, what would make per person eligible, that the existing programs would get cut, and that income from other family members would reduce the benefit. So these are the big concerns that people have. Next slide. We also, and maybe I will not go into too much detail because we're running short on time, we had many stories, many quotes and anecdotes. Many of you this will sound familiar to you. As a person with a disability, I feel like I need to walk on glass or suffer clawbacks or loss of benefits, even though I do nothing wrong. I feel like I cannot be in a romantic partnership due to benefit reductions, and I would have to hide a partner. I live benefit payment to payment. I cannot buy all the medications prescribed to me. I cannot own a vehicle, a house, or anything like that. I can just buy my groceries for the month, pay my rent, and then decide what bills get paid first. I believe that most people on a disability will be in a similar position, and it can be discouraging to see people on UI, many of which who could be working, getting more than those who have no choice. So telling stories, sharing the challenges is also an important way of doing advocacy because there's so much lack of awareness. Okay, I'm not going to read too much more because I want all of you to have a chance to go into your rooms. So in a moment, you're going to be invited to go into a breakout room. And in this meeting, you're going to share your ideas for actions that you can take and ways that you can bring your network and community to support a Canada disability benefit. And that will take about half an hour. And at the end of it, hopefully, all of you will be able to arrive at some commitments for actions that you can take over the next months as the Canadian government tries to decide what it's going to do. Okay? Are you all ready? Boop, boop. Here we go.
John,
yes.
You should ensure that everyone knows how to get into a breakout room.
It's going to happen automatically.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
Yeah, you're just going to find yourself in a room with some new friends and a facilitator. And, oh, they need a couple of minutes to finish setting it up. Okay, well.
Keep me up, Scotty.
Pardon me?
Beam me up, Scotty.
There you go. Yeah. So you're going to have a facilitator in your room. It's going to be 4 or 5 people. Now, we only have 30 minutes. So the point is to share your ideas and also leave room and time for other people to share their ideas too. We're going to have lots of excitement and energy, but it's important to create space for other people to talk. So the important thing to remember as you go into the meeting is to leave space. And some people will be shy and they'll need to have some encouragement to talk. And at the end, we're going to come back to the main room. We'll share some of the big conclusions that some of the groups came to. And then we'll say goodbye. But it won't be the end because we're going to be working together over the next months to make these actions happen and put pressure on the federal government to finally deliver on a Canada Disability Benefit. Okay. How are we doing with the breakouts? Are we almost ready?
Yes, we're ready now.
All right. Everyone, have a wonderful time. And I look forward to hearing all of your ideas. All right. Better go, Ahmed. When the meeting is done, we're going to be sharing the ideas. And you can read and maybe you'll see your name next to some of the ideas that came up in your group. And we're going to start to move towards action. Now, I'm going to ask some of the hosts to just give a little summary of what happened in your group. Do I have a host that's ready to come and speak about their group? You want to put up your hand or speak out? Oh, Carrie, go ahead.
Hello. So you were right, that 30 minutes flew by. We could have talked for a lot longer time, but some of the things that we really noted was we were a group of people who were mothers and had children, and some of the concerns around that were really that poverty is really sexist, and the statistics show that women with disabilities are disproportionately affected by poverty. Some of the ideas that we had, and it was really quick because we wanted to answer your question, but they were writing letters to the MPs, writing letters to MLAs to ask them to maintain provincial benefits when in relationships. So many women, and we're talking women specifically here, are caught in unhealthy relationships because they are financially dependent on their partners, and other people who are in domestic violence situations, losing their provincial benefits because they are in relationship. Advocate for no clawback of benefits while on EI. A lot of people work part-time while on disability benefits, and in our province specifically, those benefits were clawed back if they received EI. Story sharing via social media campaigns showing our humanity, making videos, writing articles, blogging, writing, video editing, putting human faces together so that people can identify with each other, providing platforms such as this where people with disabilities can gather and share their common concerns and ideas. And changing the narrative from living off the taxpayers, we contribute. We are providing valuable services to our communities through volunteerism, through part-time work, full-time work, etc., and providing supports for children of disabled parents. There are not a lot of resources for the children of parents who are disabled, and those children live in poverty. And one contributor mentioned that they are a single parent. They do receive disability and child tax benefits, but when their children turn 18, they lose those benefits and they could still be supporting those children. So then they're really supporting the family on their disability benefits alone. And that is really impactful for people. So thank you to the group who shared.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you.
I think we might have time for one more host to describe their group. Do I have a hand? Anybody?
Andrea has a hand up.
Oh, Andrea, go ahead.
So one of the big things that came up for our group is we were talking about there's no story too small. So make sure that whether we are maybe in a quilting group or out with friends, partners, engage with your networks. It's International Day of Persons with Disabilities coming up here. So on December the 3rd, talk to people about what's going on, talk to people and ask them to talk to the politicians, the member of parliament, have someone help you write a letter. Just remember that there's no story that's too small. So engage with people and let them know that this is part of the conversation and that we expect this to happen.
That was great and very fast, Andrea. So we have time for one more group. Do I have another nomination from Angela? Go for it.
Yep, we had quite an active discussion, although sometimes there's maybe a couple of members I had to say, hey, what do you have to say? Because I like to hear from everybody, because I think we all have good ideas. And we had a number of people talk about, first of all, how we get things we want to tell the government what we live through. We want to talk about our experience. We want to talk to MPPs and MPs about our experience. We need to get the federal and provincial government together to cooperate so the provincial government doesn't claw back everything that the federal government gives it. We also need to make sure people don't slip through the cracks because they're not on the disability tax credit. We also need to make sure that housing is looked after so that housing costs just don't keep going up and up and up. We also need to express, we have to make sure that disability related needs and expenses, like some provinces, they'll cover things like prosthetics, medication, medical travel, different things are going to be considered separate and apart from your income benefits, so that you could get an income above poverty, plus you also get your special needs covered, so that we're not going to have to cover our special needs with our increased income.
Great, Angela, thank you. I know people have obligations and we're almost at the hour. Thank you much, Angela. And thank you, everybody. It's a challenge to come to an online Zoom conversation when we all have coming from such different situations. I hope you had a great experience, but this is just the beginning. Now, as I mentioned, we took down all the different ideas. We're going to fit them together, organize them a little bit, and share it out with you. And also, you'll get a copy of the final report, so you can share that around as well.
Yeah.
This is just the beginning. Everyone, I want to thank you very much again. And just want to invite you all to join for the November Roundup for Disability Without Poverty. It's going to be on November 18th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. And you'll all get an invitation in your email.
Okay.
Okay?
See you then.
All right. Thank you all again very much. I hope you have a wonderful evening, and it was much appreciated, all of your participation. And I also want to thank the Disability Without Poverty movement and team, Andrea, Steph, Rebecca, everybody that was working behind the scenes to make this a great success. Thank you too. All right. Have a wonderful evening.